Hello, Tech Pros, episode 141.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started.
Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostick, and I am so happy to get the opportunity to talk to you today about something that's very, very important to me that I need to get off my chest. I need to tell this story. I need to share this information with you because I need to get out there because it's uncomfortable. I've kept it inside of me my whole life. This is a story I've never shared before. With anyone outside of my wife. So you guys are the first people that's hearing this, and it's really important. It's really important to me, and it may be very important to someone out there listening. So you guys, if you know me, then you know me. If you don't know me, then my name is Chad Bostick, and I'm the host of this show, the Hello Tech Pros podcast. And I come from a software development background. I've had an awesome career as a software developer, as a team lead, as a manager, and now as a podcast host on the Hello Tech Pros podcast, where I just launched in April of this year, April of 2016. And I'm looking at the stats right now, and it's just blowing my mind that I've had already since April till mid-August of 2016, I've had over 25,000 downloads. I had 8,000 downloads just in the month of July, and over 25,000 downloads altogether. And it just blows my mind. First of all, that the community out there is supporting me, and I so much appreciate your support. But it also blows my mind of the changes that I've made in my life over the last 15 years or so, the last 20 years. And I wanted to share really that path of change, that path of personal growth and rediscovering myself and really changing my attitude about myself and my attitude about the world so that I could progress to the type of person that launched a podcast and talking to 25,000 people. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's blowing my mind right now. I hadn't checked the stats in a while, and I'm just so in awe and humility, and just really appreciate the support by you guys. And looking at these numbers, it to me, it just means that I'm on the right track and I'm doing something that I should have been doing a long time ago, but I couldn't have done it a long time ago because of the problems that we're going to talk about here on this podcast, on this particular episode. So today is Motivation Monday. And for those of you who have been to the podcast before, you know that every Monday I bring on a featured guest to talk about a time in their life when they were down, they were unmotivated, and what got them out of the dumps and allowed them to get to this high state of motivation and happiness and just ready to tackle the week with a high level of energy. And the reason I have this episode is because all of my life I've needed that. I've needed to hear those stories. And so anytime I got the opportunity, not that I went out and looked for them, I should have been around more people that were highly motivating. I should have gone and listened to motivating speakers. But anytime I just saw somebody with a smile on their face that just acted happy all the time, I just wanted to know, hey, what's going on in your life? Why are you so happy? What do you have to celebrate? And just feed off of that energy. And so that's why I have it here on the podcast today, Motivation Monday every week. Kick the week off with this high level of energy, this high level of, man, things are going to be good. And it's about hope. And it's about knowing that no matter how bad it is today, tomorrow can be better. We just have to get to tomorrow. And we have to work at trying to make it better. And we have to get in an emotional state where we can accept the happiness. And I've talked to a lot of different guests about their perspective on happiness and their perspective on motivation and their perspective on, the troubled times, the hard times that we all go through. And so today I thought I would tell you a little bit about my story. The reason why this is coming about, honestly, is because, I've had, I've published well over 100 episodes. This is 141, episode 141 that we're sharing here today. And it's just been in the last few months, a 7-day-a-week program. It's been crazy to get all these guests on the show, and it's been an amazing growth opportunity for me. But I've also had the privilege and the honor of being a guest on a couple of other people's podcasts, several people's podcasts, but two of them that I want to really give thanks here today. Christina Canners of the C Method podcast and Veronica Kieran of Degrees of Separation podcast. And recently I was on each of their podcasts. I met Christina Canners at Podcast Movement, biggest podcast conference in the world. There's 1,500 podcasters there, and just made so many awesome relationships with people that are doing the same thing I'm doing, right? Whether they're in a hobby and just doing it for fun, or whether they're like to get into it. It was just an amazing experience to be around people who are doing the same kind of stuff I'm doing. Because honestly, sometimes this is it's odd because I interview 100 different people over the last couple of months, but it's kind of a lonely job sometimes because nobody understands what I do, because my family doesn't really get it, right? They're not in technology, and they're not in business, and they're not in podcasting, and my friends all think that I'm nuts and crazy for doing this. My ex-colleagues think, well, hey, good for you, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. But these folks get it. The folks at Podcast Movement get it. And Christina Canners were there, and she was walking around with a mic and asked me just kind of in the hallway, hey, can I ask you a couple of questions? Where do you get your confidence to do podcasting? And that took me off guard. She had a really big professional microphone. She's standing there in the middle of the hallway. I was unprepared. I didn't know we were going to do an interview. She was very polite. She's very kind. She's awesome about it, but stuck this microphone in front of my face and said, how do you get your confidence? And the thing that's running through my mind is, what the heck are you talking about? Confidence? I don't have any confidence. I am scared crapless every time I get on the mic. I have to take this huge breath every time I get on the mic, and I have to get in this mindset of acting like I'm confident and pretending like I'm confident. And as they say, you probably heard, fake it till you make it. I still feel like a fake every single episode. And I gave her an awesome answer, which you can, if you go to the show notes here at hellotechpros.com/141, there's a link there to get to my answer and where I came up with getting my confidence to podcast. And then later after the event, she contacted me and she asked me to be a guest on her show. And that was a really awesome experience because I'm not used to answering the questions. I'm used to being the one asking the questions because I like to hear from my guests. I want to hear what their perspectives are. It's not about me being an expert in any one of these fields. I'm not an expert in motivation. I'm not an expert in productivity or leadership or I know a little bit about technology, but there's so much more that I don't know. And then people and communications and relationships. Are you kidding me? I don't know nothing about that. And I'm learning about developing relationships. I'm learning about developing self-confidence and just learning how different ways to communicate to people. And all of these topics every day of the week. I am not the expert. I try to bring on guests to get their expertise, their perspectives, their thoughts on it. And then I just feed off their answers and we have a great time, but I'm never on the other side of the mic where I give my answers. And so the questions that she asked me was about my confidence, because her show's The C Method. The C Method is all about confidence and where confidence comes from and times when you're not confident. And so, I had a very frank discussion with her about being an introvert, and more than just being an introvert, but being extremely shy as a kid and as an adult, and the steps that I've taken across my life and my career to not to overcome the shyness because it's still there, not to beat it, but to just come up with ways in which to cope with it, to cope with shyness and to manage it and grow in my relationships and grow in my career in spite of the shyness. And so that was a very enlightening process for me to give those answers and to talk about myself to somebody else. So I really appreciate Christina having me on her show. And then also Veronica Kieran. Veronica was a guest on a prior episode here on Hello Tech Pros. And then she asked me to be a guest on her podcast, Degrees of Separation, which is all about people who got degrees in one thing and then ended up working in something completely different. And she talked to me prior to going on air about, hey, what's your degree? What do you have to your degree? And I said, well, actually, I don't have a degree. I dropped out of college my freshman year, and I never went back. And she said, wow, how did you get to your career and do all this stuff? And so we ended up doing a podcast about it. And I told the story of, me growing up and the dreams and aspirations I had, and then dropping out of college, and then just the steps of somehow getting lucky enough to land an amazing career. All that being said, I'm very much appreciated. I very much appreciate Christina and Veronica for having me on their shows and letting me give those talks. But this story is a little bit darker, a little bit deeper than the discussions I had on their shows, because it's about the time that I nearly took my life, or at least I considered suicide. And that's extremely hard for me to say. It's extremely hard for me to admit to myself, let alone admit to the general public out there in the world, and to the people that know me and like me or dislike me or whatever. But I think it's important. It's very important for me to say, to get it out here. One disclaimer I want to give you. I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. And I don't have all the answers. If you're going through something deep and dark and bad problems going on in your life, and you need a professional, go talk to a doctor, go talk to a psychologist, go talk to a therapist, go talk to, if you need a suicide, there's suicide prevention lines at like suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Talk to someone, talk to family, talk to friends, talk to me if you need to, but understand that I'm not licensed in this area. I just have my own personal story. So going back to childhood, I was quiet and shy and happy. Like I said on Christina's show and on Veronica's show, I was a quiet, shy kid. Some of it was due to the environment. We lived way out in the country away from everybody else, and I didn't have many kids to play with. But at school, I did have friends to play with. So some was by environment, some was by choice. But then getting into the teen years, I, like every other teen, became very, very uncomfortable with myself. The problem was that my uncomfortableness was more, I think, or at least it felt more. I was extremely anxious in any social situation. So outside of being with my very closest friends or outside of being with my family, I was in a state of not being able to cope with society. I didn't develop relationships. I didn't develop friends. I didn't date. I didn't do anything. When I walked around in public, I always had my eyes down on the floor. I looked at my feet. And in every social situation, I was very, very ashamed of me, ashamed of myself. And now I've discovered that's called social anxiety. So it's not about being an introvert. Being an introvert is about, where your energy level comes from and how you recharge. Being an introvert means, I need some quiet time alone in order to recharge my batteries back up. Being an extrovert means you need to be around people to recharge your batteries back up. And then being shy is just about, it's hard for you to open up. But once you do, it's no problem. Well, social anxiety is, it's not a Boolean, right? It's not a yes or no. It's a scale. It's a system where you could fall on some edge of the spectrum. It's a spectrum, is what I'm trying to say. It is you could have extreme social anxiety, social avoidance, and depression, and really, really bad things going on, or you could have just a little bit. All right. So if you think of the times that you blush or you see people blush, That is kind of a trait. That is one trait. But mine was far worse than that. I've always struggled with just not talking to people, not wanting to talk to anybody. And it would take me months and years to develop a sense of camaraderie with people in many circumstances where I could open up to them and I could laugh and joke and be a dork and have fun. It's taken me a long time in many situations to build that trust, build those relationships with people that I could open up and be myself. And once I feel comfortable, once that comfort level is there, then we're good. But it takes a long time. And the reason for that is because on the inside, I am petrified, absolutely terrified to the point of not being able to have human interactions, terrified of what people are thinking about me and what they're saying about me behind my back. My social anxiety throughout my teenage years and into my adult years led me to living a life of absolute humility and absolute torture, where I was torturing myself on the inside of just thinking the most horrible things about myself. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'm such a loser. I look like a dork. I stutter. I stammer. I can't get my thoughts straight whenever I'm trying to speak to somebody. My mouth goes cotton. I cannot look a female in the eyes. It's always, looking at the ground, looking off to the side. I can't have a conversation with girls at all in high school. I did not have any, I had no platonic female friends ever. Like I never had any, just friends where we hung out. Like Harry Potter had Hermione. I never had a Hermione. I never had anybody that I could just talk to about books or about school or about whatever. I just did not talk to people. And other people tried to reach out and they tried to talk and they tried to be friendly. And they probably, I don't know what they thought. I don't know if they thought I was a jerk or if they knew that I was just completely shy and unable to have these conversations. But I felt on the inside so self-deprecating, so horrible about myself that first of all, I rejected them. I rejected having a conversation with them. And then I felt horrible because I didn't talk to them, that they probably thought I was a complete jerk and a complete a-hole. And I was somebody they didn't want to talk to anyway. And so that just kind of reinforced and fed into that thought process. I didn't have a single date all through high school, and that was because I didn't have a single conversation with anybody. I had very, very few friends. Looking back, some of the friendships that I had, some of the very close relationships that I had were probably, it's difficult to say, but probably net negative relationships. I had these friendships because they were developed in fifth, sixth, seventh grade. And by senior year, they were still the only friends that I had because they were the people that got along with me in fifth or sixth or seventh grade in those formative years when I was 11, 12, 13. And so as a senior, as an 18-year-old man and going into leaving high school, going into college, those were still the same friends that I had back as a 11, 12, 13-year-old boy, just because those were the people that I hung out with and I was comfortable with their stuff. And some of them are great friends today and others are not. But the point is that I would only do things if they were taking me along. Like I never planned a trip. I never had hopes and desires of wanting to go out and do something on my own and take my friends. It was always my friends play soccer, so I play soccer. My friends go play paintball, so I go play paintball. They have a lot of people over to play board games, and so I go over there and join them. And so anyone that I became friends with through that group, I'm very appreciative of that social interaction because it was all I had. I was too afraid and too self-deprecating, too just hurtful on myself. I had too much social anxiety to do anything. And so it was to the social anxiety is, in my case, was to such extreme, it became social avoidance, where I would avoid going out in public. I would avoid talking to people. I would avoid situations where I had to have a social interaction with anyone. Um, I love going out to eat. I love food, but I would barely say the dish to my waiter or waitress, and they always, usually try to joke around and laugh and how's it going? And I wouldn't play into any of that. I would just like stare at the menu, say, this is what I want. I'll take a number one, an iced tea, and that's it. And, there was no other relationship other than that. And so, it was tough as a teenager. Most teenagers do. But by the time I got to 25 years old, it was unbearable. I was looking at myself and my life, and I was so lonely, so extremely heartbreakingly lonely. And I was just so ashamed of the adult that I was growing into being. I was looking on the next 5 years. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And I was like, God, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this place where I literally have like 2 friends and that's it. And those are the only 2 people I talk to. And at work, I'm okay as long as I'm in front of the computer writing code or talking to the 3 or 4 people on my team. But other than that, I didn't talk to people outside of my department. I didn't talk to people outside of my team. I didn't have interactions with people out of work. So, we did the work. And then as soon as the workday was over, a lot of people would go out and hang out and go have drinks and, go eat dinner and see each other on the weekend. And I was never part of that group ever. And I just felt lonely. And it wasn't because people were excluding me. It was because I was excluding myself. And it was just a really, really bad situation. It hurt all the time because I knew as soon as I left, I put in so much extra time, so much overtime just because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be around people a little bit longer. And as soon as I go home, I just got sad and depressed and lonely and nobody else around. And then I felt really good when I quit my job because of some stressful things. The .com bust was going on, and so I quit my job because I wanted to go out on my own and build my own business and do my own thing. And I was so proud of that statement because I made a statement to the boss. I stood up to the boss and I said, I'm not going to take this junk anymore. I'm out. Peace out. I'm gone. I tried to do it in a very respectful manner. Just like, hey, this is not the right time. This is not the right place. I've decided to go out on my own. But on the inside, I felt like a rock star. But that only lasted about 2 weeks. I felt like a rock star for about 2 weeks, probably not even that. And then once I got home, I was working from home. The social anxiety almost killed me. The social avoidance almost killed me because once I got home and was working for myself, there was literally no one around ever. As a 25-year-old man, the only people that I hung out with was my roommate who had an alternate schedule, so I hardly ever saw him. One other friend that I saw every now and then my mom and my sister. And the reasons I hung out with them, I love my mom and my sister, but as a 25-year-old man, every now and then on a Friday, Saturday night, or just whenever throughout the week, you think you would be out doing other stuff, meeting other people, going to bars, going to clubs, going to dinners, just calling friends, inviting people, trying to have dates, whatever. And I did none of that because I had the social anxiety like times 10. And the social avoidance made me feel like I couldn't go out and do those things because I was so afraid of the rejection. I was so afraid of what people are thinking about me. I was so afraid of how I would do something embarrassing. I was constantly afraid that I would do something embarrassing. I would say something embarrassing. And that was the worst. The absolute worst is when I did try to say something, when I did try to have a conversation and I would, stutter, stammer. I mean, I've done that 40 or 50 times on this podcast. And there's a reason why I don't edit these podcasts and take them out is because now I'm trying to get over it, right? It's no big deal. Everybody has some little tics in their voice or some little problems that they don't like and some little phrases that they say over and over again. And it very produced podcast, they cut all that junk out because they want to make it sound professional. I specifically don't cut that junk out because I'm trying to get over the fact that it's for me, it would be a crutch. Like once I go into the editor and I start editing that stuff out, that's a crutch. And what I need to do is just be happy with myself, just be comfortable with myself. And so at this point, when I was 25 years old, I left the house at, I don't know, it was nighttime. I don't remember exactly what time it was. It was probably, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And I left the house because I just needed social interaction. I needed to be around somebody. I needed to be around a group of people. I hadn't been around a group of people in months. And I just started driving down the road thinking, okay, where can I go? Can I go to a club? I don't know any clubs. If I went to a club, what would I do? There'd be a whole bunch of people there. Yeah, that'd be great, but there'd be a whole bunch of people there and I can't talk to them. I can't interact with them. I'm not a drinker, so I don't drink. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to act like a fool and everybody's going to think I'm a loser. And oh my God, what am I doing? And I literally broke down spiritually and emotionally just there as I was driving my car, trying to figure out what I could do to find some social interaction. And I had no idea what to do. And I thought, I didn't think, I prayed. I prayed, God, please help me. God, please help me. I hurt so bad. I hurt so much. I can't have this pain anymore. It just is unbearable. I'm so lonely. I feel like even in a crowd of people, if I went out to a club, if I went out to a dance club, if I went out to a restaurant or a bar or any kind of event, a concert, I would be the most lonely person in a group of thousands of people because I can't interact with these people. I don't know how to build relationships with them. I don't know how to have conversations with them. I don't know how to look them in the eye. I mean, gosh, I was the guy who'd go to family reunions and not talk to my family, like extended family, because I didn't know them, like my aunts and uncles and cousins. As a teenager and as a young adult, I would go to these things and I would just sit off in the corner and watch everybody else. And if I can't have a relationship with my own family, extended family members, then I certainly didn't feel like I could be comfortable enough to have conversations and just random interactions with random people that I'd never met before. And so I was so depressed. I said, God, you got to do something. You got to help me get out of this. You've got to put people in my life because otherwise I might as well just kill myself. And that statement that I made in that prayer scared the crap out of me. It was a wake-up moment. There's in every story about when people hit rock bottom, they tell you about what it felt like when it hit rock bottom. Well, for me, emotionally, socially, spiritually, that was my rock bottom when I said, oh my God, what did I just say? Just a few months ago, in this time period, a few months prior to this event, I had lost a friend at work who killed himself. And it was horrible. It was horrible to feel, gosh, what was going on in his life? He was so happy. He was so energetic. He was so full of joy. He had a family. He's got a wife and 2 kids and a just beautiful life. And what happened? What could we have done to prevent it? What was he feeling on the inside? And gosh, what a jerk. Like, what a jerk to hurt his wife and hurt his family and hurt all of us at work. And then as soon as I said that about my circumstance, that I couldn't go on any longer, I might as well be dead. If things didn't change, I would kill myself. And I meant it seriously. I knew that I meant it, and that scared me because I knew how bad I hurt, and I knew that I could not take that hurt anymore. That scared me because I didn't want to be like my friend. I didn't want to hurt other people, and I didn't want to die. I did not want to die, but I came to the point where I was at a crossroads, and the path that I was on was unbearable. It was absolutely unbearable. There's no way I could take that anymore. There was no way that after that night I could have gone on. And then another path was suicide, and to me that was also unbearable. I didn't want to do that. Um, there was a Game of Thrones reference where one of the characters, Tyrion Lannister, says, I don't have the quote, but something about death is so finite, but life is full of possibilities. And I don't want it to end. I want something better. I had this hope that something would get better, but I didn't know what it was. And I really had a revelation at that point that the world wasn't going to change and get easier for me. I had to change to make life easier on myself. And so that night and the next day, I began the journey of change. I started forming a new path. I said, okay, I can't stay in the state of depression. I can't just sit here with this. I didn't know what to call it at the time, social anxiety. I just this loneliness. I can't be here with this loneliness in this state for the rest of my life, no matter how long it is, nor can I take my own life. That's not an option either. So I'm going to have to do something else. I'm going to have to change my behaviors, and hopefully changing my behaviors will help me change my attitudes. And if I can change my behaviors and my attitudes and at least get other people in my life that can pick me up and get me motivated to live life and motivated to create relationships, then things would be better. And so I didn't know what to do, but I started, and that decision saved my life. And that decision changed my life for the last 15, 16 years now. So after that night, I don't know if it was the next day, if it was that night, if it was a week from then, but very shortly after that, I actually got online onto a couple of dating sites, and I said, you know what, I don't know how to talk to girls in public. I don't know how to meet people and say, hey, how's it going? You want to go on a date with me? Because I felt like a complete phony. I couldn't even look them in the eyes, let alone have a conversation, let alone ask them for their number or ask them out on a date. So I said, I can use technology. There's these websites, there's these dating sites that are here now. I'll give it a try and see what happens. And so I went through the process. And as I said on Christina's podcast, I had success there, and I started creating dates, and I started going out. And once I started going out and meeting people and understanding that, I came to understand shortly within the first 3 or 4 dates that, dude, everybody's got these problems. Everybody's got some sort of anxiety. Everybody's got something that they don't like about themselves. And there's a lot of people, at least back then, I haven't been on dating sites in 13, 14, 15 years, however long it's been. But back then, there were a lot of profiles that weren't quite honest about the way that they represented themselves and the way they were in real life. There was a disconnect. And I felt like, whoa, hang on. I thought you were XYZ, and your profile said you like these kind of things, and you obviously don't, or you would be acting different or dressed different or whatever, something, or your physical attributes would be different. And I came to slowly realize that, excuse me, that a lot of people fear judgment, and they fear people's reactions, and so they want to try to present themselves as something a little bit disingenuous, or something that they want to be or aspire to be. And through that process of meeting a lot of people and dating through online dating, I came to grips with some things about myself, and I came to the realization that I wasn't as dorky as I gave myself credit for. I wasn't as much of a loser as I gave myself credit for, and I started to build up a little bit of confidence to talk to people. So that was step one. Step two was then actually through that process, I met a beautiful, just amazing lady, and we fell in love. And a year later, we had been dating and been in a very positive, awesome, very committed relationship for a year. And a year later, after started dating her, I proposed. And then a couple of years later, we got married. And this month, I'm so happy to say that we'll be celebrating our 11th anniversary as a married couple. And we've been together, for, 13, 14 years now. And it was right after this time where I had this breakdown, right after this time, just, 6 months or a year later, after I had this, hit this low point, that I said, I need to turn things around, and I needed to start having relationships. And I slowly started building relationships. And then I fell in love, and now things are a lot better. And through that relationship, through my relationship with my wife, she has really been a mentor and a coach to me on helping me relate to other people outside of us, outside of our little network of our families, right? And helping me understand how to communicate to people at work, how to communicate to my boss, how to communicate to my colleagues, how to stand up for myself when I need to stand up for myself, how to present my ideas or present somebody else's ideas to a team whenever we need to. Not that she was telling me exactly what to say or when to say it, but just that, hey, you're a smart guy and you don't have a problem speaking. What you have a problem with is the fear of speaking to other people. And you need to just be confident that you can do this, like you have this. And it's not about you, it's about the data. It's not about you, it's about the projects. It's not about you, it's about the information. And you can present that information just like you told it to me. Just say that same stuff to your boss, say that same stuff to your colleagues, and things will improve for yourself, for your career, and things will improve for the team, because the team needs to hear this. They need to improve in these ways. And so I did. And once I started doing that, between the confidence boosters that I got from her, as well as a very awesome mentor and manager that I happen to be working for, who brought me into a team lead position and really coached me and mentored me on leadership. Once I got into that leadership position, gosh, that's why we have Leadership Wednesday on this podcast every week, is because that really changed my career and changed my life and my perspective on things, because it's not about being the boss. It's about being a person who's there for the team and empathetic and listens and coaches them on their problems and their struggles, and try to be that lead blocker, as they say in football, that lead blocker who blocks and tackles for the team and lets them go. I'm not a sports guy, so whatever it is, go get a touchdown or a thing. Go sports team. So be that person who can be there on behalf of the team and be someone that listens to their ideas, listens to their problems, and creates an awesome environment where people want to share ideas and want to push themselves, encourage the people that I work with to push themselves and their careers to the next level. And that opened up so many more doors to me. So many people outside of my department now that I'm having conversations with, right? So once I'm a supervisor on the team, then I'm starting to have relationships with people that I'm building, not just in the app dev team, but in the infrastructure teams and in the network teams. And then outside of that, in the business teams and in all the other stakeholders. And I'm starting to have real friendships with real people outside of IT, outside of technology, where I've always hid, right? Because again, going back to that 10-year-old kid, that 15-year-old kid, it's always been easier for me to relate to technology and to work on code or work on technical problems than it has been to deal with people. And once I got into that leadership position, it really allowed me to connect with people on a broader level, on a deeper level, and really grow my own social anxiety coping mechanisms. It allowed me to get rid of a lot of social avoidance problems that I've always had, and just allowed me to have a much more meaningful, awesome life that I've had. And now, after doing that career for several years, about 7-8 years, I started a podcast. Like, I kind of wrap it all up the way we started this at the beginning. I've started a podcast where I'm putting myself out there and asking people, please be a guest on the show. Please, let's talk. I don't want to avoid social interactions. I want to have an interaction with you. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to get your perspective. And I've talked to so many people who are not rejecting me because they don't want to come on the show, but they're rejecting themselves. And they say, Chad, I thank you. I'm so honored that you've asked me, but I don't feel like I have anything to share. I don't think I have anything. I'm not smart enough. I've only been in this, like, I'm a junior developer. I haven't been in this role very long. I don't know anything. It's like, yeah, you do. You know a lot of stuff about life. You know a lot of stuff about your perspective. You know a lot of stuff about you. I want to hear your story. Other people say, gosh, Chad, I don't have a book. Like, I'm not an author. You have all these CEOs and these authors and these podcasters on your show. I'm not that. I'm just a manager of a small team over here in this industry that doesn't talk to anybody. I'm like, well, you can talk to me because I'm a friendly guy and I've been there. Like, I've had that social anxiety where I fear talking to people. I fear having relationships with people. I avoid social interactions. And 15 years ago, there's no way I could do this podcast. There's no way that I could talk to you personally if you met me on the street and was like, hey, man, what's going on? What do you listen to on your headphones? I would just probably ignore you and look at my feet and walk off. And you'd be like, all right, jerk, fine. Just pretend you're not even listening to me. But now I can. And it's been an evolution. It's been a slow process of me refactoring my anxieties, refactoring the way that I deal with my anxieties, and really that hitting rock bottom place is allowed me to look at myself and look at the world and look at the opportunities that are out there and say, I don't know where I'm going, but I know that if I head in a more positive direction with a more positive attitude, that it will get better. And it has gotten a lot better. It has gotten amazing. I love life so much. I love my family. I love my friends. I love the fact that I moved across country just because, I lost a business opportunity back in Oklahoma where I was from, but I just was ready to just try something new, try something different, go to a new place where I can meet brand new people in a completely different culture, completely different environment, completely different industry. And that's been a blast in the last year or so that I've lived out here in Central Florida. It's been amazing to talk to so many amazing people. Worked for a couple of different really cool companies, and now off of my own doing the podcast, which has just been the biggest, hugest benefit to me personally, not on the number of downloads, right? Not about really about any kind of notoriety with the awesome guests that I've had and like famous entrepreneurs or CEOs of big organizations. Forget all that kind of stuff. But it's about the evolution of Chad. That's what this whole podcast is all about. This whole show, the 7-day-a-week show: Monday, motivation; Tuesday, productivity; Wednesday, leadership; Thursday, technology; Friday, people and relationships and communication; Saturday, entrepreneurship, which is about selling yourself and your ideas and your products; and then Sunday, being unplugged, which is focused on your family and your health and yourself and your well-being and your happiness and your comfort with just being okay to be okay in your own skin, if that makes any sense. This podcast is really, when you break it all down, when I take a moment to take a look at what motivates me, what has motivated me over the course of the last 15 years, it has been these 7 steps, these 7 activities in my life of getting motivated and then working really hard at my job or working really hard at building relationship and seeing that productivity. And then all the other things. The leadership has been such a blessing, and the entrepreneurship right now is such an amazing experience. And if you resonate with this at all, there's a lot of people that are probably like, dude, I don't know what the heck he's talking about, and tuned out a long time ago. Cool, no worries. But if there's anybody that can relate to this at all, do you have these social anxiety problems where you fear talking to people? And it might be you might be different on the spectrum than me, right? You might be worse, harder on yourself than I was on myself, or you might be not so bad in other circumstances, right? You might be an extroverted introvert or whatever they call them, right? Where in certain circumstances you're the life of the party, in other circumstances you get real nervous and you blush bright red and you break out into hives because you're worried about what people think or what they're saying. But if you can resonate with this at all, then I would love to talk to you. I would love to build a relationship with you. I would love to support you in your journey of overcoming your social anxieties. You can change. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But first of all, you have to want to. If you don't want to change, if you're okay with your situation, then you're okay with your situation. But if you're miserable, if you're absolutely disgusted with yourself, if you hate the fact that you're so shy, if you hate the fact that your relationships are not as good as they could be, if you hate the fact that your career is not as good as it could be because you're afraid to talk to your boss about a promotion or afraid to speak up in meetings and pitch your ideas, or you're afraid to talk to stakeholders about the product and maybe the different direction that you could take, then I think I can help you with that. Or at least I can listen to your problems and provide my take on it. Like I said before, I'm not an expert. I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. But I am a person who has been there and a person who is very empathetic. I think that's the best trait that I have, and I'm very, very proud of that trait, is I'm an extremely empathetic person, and I feel for you. If you're going through a hard time, man, everybody has hard times. No matter what hard time you're going through, I feel you. I've been there. Don't get too hard on yourself. Don't consider suicide. Life can be so much more than what it is now if you just give yourself the opportunity to try it, to just try life and try new experiences and face your anxieties and develop a system that works for you, where you can cope with your anxiety. Let me tell you something, it's never going to go away. Like, I'm still nervous every time I do this. I've been sitting here all day. This is actually Friday night when I'm recording this, but I had all Friday off. I had not very many calls I had to do, and I waited until 9:30 at night before I started recording this, because I've been wasting all day thinking I need to do it, but I'm scared to do it. I need to do it. I'm scared to do it. But by golly, I was brave enough to do it. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I changed, and you can change too. You don't have to start a podcast. You don't have to start a video blog. You don't have to start speaking on stage. You don't have to completely change your life. You don't have to completely change your career. You may not want to do any of that stuff. That's cool. But if you want to change your anxiety, your fears, if you want to change, if you have social avoidance issues that you're struggling with, that you're tired of dealing with, man, there is another path. There's the path you're on. There's that other path that we're not going to talk about that's not an option. Just get it out of your head. Don't ever go down that path. Don't ever think about that path. There's another path, and that path is scary and it's hard and it's difficult. It's certainly not easy, and it's a long, long path, a lifelong path of change and being gentle on yourself and forgiving yourself and being okay with being you and learning to accept that in different situations. And as you grow in this area, you will get better and better at dealing with it. If I can help you in any way, please reach out to me. You can find me through email, chad@hellotechpros.com. You can find me on Twitter. The Hello Tech Pros Twitter account is @HelloTechPros. If you want to get access to all of the content there, or contact me directly at Chad Bostick. That's with a K, Bostick. Or our Slack channel. Don't forget our Slack channel. which I always have at the end of the episode. Go to hellotechpros.com/Slack, join our Slack channel, and you can give me some feedback. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm all over. Just Google me. You'll see my goofy face. And if it relates to you at all, please let me know, because this is the most vulnerable thing I've ever done in my life. This conversation is the hardest conversation I've ever tried to have in my life. And I thought doing episode 0 was hard. I talked about that before. Episode 0 was painfully hard for me to do. This in some ways was easier because I've already done 140 episodes, but in other ways it's harder because it's so vulnerable. It's so deep into the psyche of Chad, which is a strange place. Anyway, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. I promise I will answer you back directly as soon as I can. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this conversation. It's been a long conversation. I know we went way over our 30-minute time, but I just had to get it out there, and I hope that I can help someone in this area. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thank you so much. I love you. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of your family and your friends, but please don't do anything stupid. If you need to talk to a counselor about something that's going on in your life, if you need to talk to someone about suicide, there's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org or call 1-800-273-8255. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. You've been listening to Chad Bostick. And until next time, just take care. Bye. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/141. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Motivation Monday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I talk about productivity. On Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. Then next week, we start it all over again with Motivation Monday. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.